Bonjour, bonjour,
Bonjour.
Nadège. So today in this episode of What Drives Her, Woman to Women, the place where we talk about the real stuff, I really wanted to invite you, Nadège,
Thank you.
because I think Nadège has so many things to share with all of you in the journey that led her and took her to where she is now. And she will talk more about that. But at the beginning, I just wanted to say that so Nadège began to work as a teacher, and if I understood, it was a very, very nice time of your life. You loved it. So the shift did not happen for Nadège because she was miserable at all. The shift happened because it came from within.
Yes.
And that there was something within you that had to be put out there.
Exactly.
And so now, Nadège, please explain us.
Actually, so when I was teaching French in London, teaching adults, I started studying mysticism, or metaphysics it was called. And that was the beginning of a journey. So I started really quite early on, quite young, and before that I'd read some books on power of the subconscious mind, and then I went into the mystical books of, you know, some Indian masters, and it really resonated with me, and I knew that I was at the beginning of something, and you know, it would take some time. I mean, I think it might take a few lifetimes to get there.
What was, if I may ask, what was the difference that hooked you?
I feel that compared to a lot of people, I was born with the certainty that there's more than meets the eye. So yes, you know, being successful in the Western world way and having, you know, a nice house and kids and whatever is important for our well-being. But I've always known that there was something more, and I've always had that question, that inner desire to find out more. I'm very, very curious, and you know, what is this all about? Basically, has driven me.
Yeah, there was something more. There was something bigger.
Yeah.
For you. So how did you? So you changed profession.
So yeah,
and you became
a kinesiologist. Kinesiology is.
Can you tell maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe not everybody knows what that is.
So kinesiology is looking at the body and using the muscle test. So it's really a body-based approach therapy, which really kind of cut out the rational mind, because you push, you push very lightly on different muscles, and you get a response, which is a biofeedback mechanism, and that response kind of guides you, because the body knows it's really talking with that aspect of ourselves, which is called, you know, the autonomic nervous system, in charge of all the body processes, which obviously we couldn't deal with our conscious mind. So all of this is done in a part of our mind which is autonomous, we're not conscious of directly, and really the muscle test allows us to go deep into the body and follow the body's wisdom in terms of finding out where blocks are happening, or deficiencies in minerals and vitamins, or food intolerances, but you know, emotional blocks and energy blocks. It's a very holistic approach. That's why I chose it, because I love the idea of working with everything from nutrition to energy, acupuncture points, meridians, and emotions, and I've really specialize in emotions, because I love finding out what's in the way of us becoming, you know, a better version of ourselves.
So would you say that kinesiology, which is linked, as you were saying, with acupuncture, maybe with EFT as well?
Oh yeah.
Freedom technique.
Yes.
Would you say this is more of an Eastern world approach?
Well, it's a mix, because and again, we should say that under the umbrella of kinesiology, it's a bit like yoga. There are lots of different types of kinesiology. So my approach is called systematic kinesiology. The common denominator of all of them is the muscle test.
Yes.
But some people will do a lot of asking and will look at lots of papers and questions. Ours is quite body based, but it is a mix in a way, because we look at the body, so we take the body as the prime media. That's it. Thank you very much. But then we work with the energetic, because the reason why the muscle comes on and off is the electromagnetic impulses of the body, the electromagnetic field. So that's what we work on, and so yes, we correct. We do a lot of corrections with acupuncture points, meridians, and anything. That's the beauty of systematic kinesiology. We can use sounds, colors, elixirs, gem essences, and homeopathy. I mean, I use many things, and I think it's good. That's why I love it, because I've been able to include
it's
my
flexible.
stuff. Exactly, flexible. You can personalize it. You can specialize into whatever you want, and it's pretty mind-blowing, I've got to say.
I have to say, I have tried it with, I've been through the process with Nadège, and my way to try new things, I don't know, is I'm very open. I always have a part of my brain which is always keeps its critical thinking, critical approach. But I'm really open, and it was really mind-blowing, actually. That's very true. Because with the muscle tests that you had done, sometimes I could, where it was not moving, and then you were approaching. It depended, it was with food allergy.
Yeah, because we put in the field of the body, we will put either food, either hormones, in little biomarkers that we have.
Depending what is the issue the
to
person
treat
wants.
Exactly, to test how the body's dealing with it, and yes,
and you know what, I was like, it doesn't work, and then Nadège was choosing whatever she had assessed that would change something, and it was oof.
Yeah.
And you just can't fight it.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
Yeah.
So that is the body just giving its own message, and it resonates a lot with me, because with hypnosis, that's the unconscious mind, something we don't control, and the body holds it.
Yes. And when we work with emotional, we'll kind of determine what emotion is stuck in the body, and we'll look at the age, and that is where the magic happens, because sometimes somebody will say age 3, I don't know, and sometimes something comes up, and something that initially might seem a little bit trivial, and the person, adult, is in tears, but I don't know why I'm crying, I'm sorry, and it's just happening, and that's the magic. I feel so.
That's the release.
Oh my God, I feel so honored.
Of the stuck emotion.
Yes, it's so beautiful to see. Beautiful to see.
And yes, this is one approach. You can have that release of stuck past negative, unprocessed emotions with different approaches. But clearly, you have them when you work with kinesiology.
Yeah, when the person's ready, when when it happens, because that's it. Yeah,
exactly.
You've got to be ready.
You've got to be ready.
Yeah.
Is kinesiology something which is regulated?
I'm a member of a professional association, which is called the Association of Systematic Kinesiology. So that's our regulating body.
Yes, and if I understood what you had told me, it's quite a long process to learn it, or?
Yeah, I think I'm because there's 2 levels. So at the diploma level, it was nearly 3 years.
Nearly 3 years, yes, of studying. Okay, and now I would like you to tell us about your own journey, your inner journey, of writing this book, which began a few years
5 years ago.
5 years ago to give birth.
Nearly 6 actually.
Nearly 6 years ago.
Now, yeah.
And so it's a whole process that, and this is really what I want Nadège to talk about, plus the kinesiology. It's an inner process you went through, and with real stuff. It was no lying, it was facing yourself.
Yes.
It was violent at times,
Oh,
it was very uneasy at times. It was as well liberating and
Very
beautiful.
much so, yes.
Can you tell us about that?
So yeah, I mean, I've studied and listened to so many oh my God, hours and hours and hours and hours of lots of various talks and conferences, and read some books, but I had one question which remained unanswered, which really was, what does it mean to be spiritual in the 21st century, where and when the world is seemingly completely chaotic and everything seems to go pear-shaped? The world seems to have lost it. So that was my question, my quest, my desire. I really needed an answer. And one January the 1st, I was thinking of maybe
January the 1st.
Yeah,
interesting.
January the 1st.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, okay, shall I do anything this year? Blah blah blah. And then really three things I'd always wanted to do fused together. I had asked the universe to meet a master, a guru, but somebody local. I wanted to have somebody I could talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing had happened. I had ignored my inner voice saying, go within, meditate, do more, inner work. Ignored it. And then I had that dream of writing a book, which to me seemed completely impossible. And suddenly these three things fused together, and I had a little voice inside telling me, just go within, meet your inner guru, and write about it. And I thought, what a great idea.
So you suddenly had that inner voice, that inner guru, telling you, you have it all.
I know, that's it, yeah.
It's interesting because in therapy that's what we tell people as well. You have it all.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do with your life, look at yourself. So I think a lot of people will probably relate to that.
And it's the same with the body, because at the end of the day, whatever drug, whatever medication you take, the real work is done by the body. And it's only a trigger to stimulate the body's own healing system. So that's it, we have it all.
Yes.
We've forgotten.
We have forgotten.
We've cut it off.
Exactly. The mind and the brain have forgotten sometimes that link with the reality of the body.
Yeah.
So you had that kind of revelation, or that inner voice giving you that message, saying, yes, you're looking for this, and that. Hang on a minute, it's in there.
Yes.
Interesting. And then?
Well, then, because I got all excited and I thought, oh, I'm going to meet my inner guru. So I did a kind of meditation, and it was like candles, or what shall I do, the whole ritual, and I went inside. I went within. And this was a very emotional moment. Oh God, I'm getting emotional, because I really felt I met an old man in a drape, and I really laughed, because old for me, and that's in the book, because old, I associated old with more wisdom. I associated the drape, with the iconic
kind
things,
of noble,
or more the iconic things we've seen in all the films, the wise old man. And then he had amazing blue eyes, and in my meditation I felt that he was looking, he was seeing me, and there was so much love. Oh yeah, there was so much love that I was crying.
She already cried.
and yes, I'm feeling emotional. I was crying, and I was thinking in myself, oh my God, I'm not worth it. And the voice I heard was, yes, you are.
I'm going to stop
Everybody
you
is.
there. Exactly.
Everybody
Just
is.
1 second. I'm not worth it. Yes, you are. I think that's the bottom line.
Well, that's the bottom line of everything. to do it.
began to accept.
Yes, because it took me a year to really fight with the other side of the voice, the inner critic. And really that book became a discussion, a conversation between these two aspects. The aspect that I call the ego within and the inner wisdom. And my ego within was saying, oh, I'm writing a book, oh, who do you think you are? No. And there's so many quite nasty things. And it took me a year
to process and
to liberate myself from it. And I went to a workshop at the end of that year with the intention of finding some resolution, and I did, in a painful way, because again I went into meditation where I realized how I was sabotaging myself and keeping myself small. And
that is interesting as well, because what I like in that book you've chosen to write, which is the results, the product of all the work you've done from within yourself, is that there are commonalities for all of us.
Well, yeah.
And that's your message, basically.
Well, that's the message, because I really decided to use my life as the background.
Yeah.
But in a way, you know, as and everything I was going through as archetypes for all of us. So there's everything from a mega argument with my mother, to, you know, the world terrorism which happened, to more personal moments of total inner doubt and that feeling of being inadequate, which has been quite a theme in my life, rejection, abandonment, and all of that. So it's I know that it's very archetypal, all the story, but I made a point of being extremely honest and authentic and transparent, and allowing and letting that voice flow through me. And it did. It did so much so that after, I think, the second year, at the end of the second year, because it took me quite a long time. At the end of the second year, I started writing things which I wasn't sure what it really meant. I mean, I could understand conceptually, intellectually, but I was behind. So people would ask me, oh, what's the book doing? But I'm catching up, and people didn't understand. What do you mean you're catching up? You know, because I was writing about things that I hadn't totally digested and integrated, and I really wanted to be totally in line with it. So that's the reason it's taken me so long, because I've done a lot of work and dealing with that inner perpetrator, which I call the inner perpetrator. And it's funny because I started with it and I end up with it. At the end, you know, I write a letter to my inner perpetrator, and again that made me cry for weeks. Oh my God. But it's been an amazing process, extremely liberating. But at the end of the day, to sum it up, because I've been trying to really now kind of sum up what's happened, it's really understanding that our inner communication and the quality of our inner communication determines the quality of our life.
When you talk about quality, what do you mean?
How we manage to, you know, the old philosophical concept of nothing has meaning but the meaning we give it. You know, when something happens to us, what do we do with it? How do we talk to ourselves about it?
So by quality, you're saying there, and yes, as we were saying earlier, this is a concept which is quite present in therapy as well. One event doesn't mean anything else, that's what we do with it.
Exactly.
By quality, I understand, but I might be wrong. I understand something I'm quite obsessed with, which is being honest.
That's it.
With the self. This is what you mean as well.
Quality.
Not
yes.
hiding behind.
No, exactly.
Good.
So how well we communicate with ourselves, not hiding.
Yes, that's the point.
Not hiding, and having the courage to step into what makes us afraid, having the courage to step into our shame, our vulnerabilities, our feelings of guilt, all the so-called bad, having the courage to bad emotions, having the courage to be with them and actually invite them after putting ourselves in a state of feeling, grateful, just invite them so that we can investigate, we can inquire, we can see what they tell us, and understanding that basically, every chapter has this as a message, which is always about how the outer world is a mirror of our inner world. So we've got so many opportunities to grow if we want. Just looking at what happens and having the courage to let go of the emotions and try to see what the meaning is for us. What did that make me feel? If I'm very, very honest, what is it bringing up in me?
It's interesting because the way, when I listen to you, the way I understand it, is that you've done an inner therapy.
Oh yeah. I'm still there.
And you're still there.
It's a lifetime.
And yes, because it depends on if you have a chosen aim or not of your therapy. But the truth is, yes, in therapy as well, what is important is exactly what you're describing, is to have that honesty step by step, to look frankly and recognize what is there.
Absolutely.
Which is the only way to make a change, which I don't like change, which is the only way to allow, to open to an evolution.
Yes.
And this is also very much linked, tell me if you agree or not, very much linked with mindfulness.
Yes.
Isn't
Oh,
it?
totally. Mindfulness is absolutely amazing because it is accepting that.
Yes.
It's stopping the fighting the outer world, and fighting these aspects of us in our inner world that we don't want to acknowledge, and stopping being balanced from one end of the spectrum, the polarity, to the other. And what I realized as well, by the end, I went on a retreat.
Do you have an end?
Well,
No,
by
you
the
can't
end
have
of
an
that
end.
book, I went on a retreat, and it was an amazing realization about how we go from one polarity to the other, and how we even manipulate ourselves into wanting, for example, to feel, because we started with enough, to feel enough, just in order to compensate the other aspect of the polarity. So when you start becoming extremely honest, radically honest, you just open yourself up into ultimate liberation.
Which can be frightening.
But it is frightening. Oh yes.
And this
It
is
very
also,
frightening.
as you were saying earlier, it is also about acknowledging and recognizing the darkest side
Yes.
of ourselves.
Yes.
The ones we keep hiding to the society, to the people around us, and to ourselves as
Yeah.
well. We can, sometimes that dark, when I don't like seeing dark actually, that part of us, that side of us bursts, because the body and the unconscious mind has enough of it. It needs to be, we need to process this, we need to do something with it. And this is what you've done.
This is what I've done, what a lot of people do, and funnily enough, it took me some time to realize what that meant. My inner voice would forever tell me, you're not only doing it for yourself, you're doing it for others. I mean, not only me. I mean, whenever somebody does some type of work like this, the whole planet benefits, and actually the whole universe, I was told. And
Let's dream big.
But it's true that what I've come to really understand and know now is that when we allow ourselves to dig deep, or to dive into these traumas, and we come out and we've integrated them on some level, we've transformed ourselves, we then have that in us, in what I call an energy, because I believe in vibrations and energy. We have that in us, and then we allow others to do the same. It gives permissions for others to do the same, whether they want it or not. It's an invitation. Nobody's forced. But in that way, whatever we do, whatever work we do on ourselves, whatever little step we take to move from fear into courage, from shame into feeling enough, is a step for the whole of us, and that's amazing.
Yes, and this is what you believe in. Sorry, and this is the one of the aim of your book.
Yes.
Is that going through your own process? This is opening to others.
Of course, and we all have our inner guru, inner wisdom, whatever you want to call it. And once we connect to that, we can grow exponentially. And as we trust it, it comes, it really makes itself even more present in our life. And actually, I've now started number 2, when number 1 is
The
not
book,
even out.
the book.
Number 2. And I'm realized, I mean, the first sentence is the universe is participatory, understanding that, that we are not alone, never. And it's important to start studying the knowledge and stuff, but at some point experience become the experience of it all, because if it only stays in our mind, it's conceptual, it's intellectual. But it's only when we drop into our heart and we live life from there in an empirical way, experiencing it, that we can really, really, really transform ourselves and everybody around, if they're okay with that.
What would you say this whole process from within brought in your life? Which novelties did you benefit? Maybe the helping ones, and maybe the at times difficult ones, but
so
what is the ending?
I think I've got, not everything is resolved, obviously. I feel much more at peace with myself. I feel
acceptance?
More acceptance, much more, and much more at peace. It's much easier for me to go into being aligned, letting go of control, becoming comfortable with what is uncomfortable. It's a big thing.
Can we just stop 1 second here?
That's a big one.
Can you repeat that?
Yes. Becoming comfortable with what is uncomfortable.
This is a big one. I think this is something all of us at times struggle with, and so one way is to just block it, and when you block it, you make it exist even more, and it takes more space and more time and more energy. The way to do it your way, and the way we do it in therapy as well, is that you acknowledge that, you open to that, and there is, for me, the word that comes is humility. I don't know which word you would
totally
compare.
Totally, humility is absolutely spot on. And I showed Pia one of the quotes I love the most from the end of the book, which was a defining moment for me, because even though I knew it, it was just, making it even more of us, is that the biggest mistake we make is to believe that if we really created our reality, we wouldn't be living the life we live. And it's so easy to kind of think, well, yes, when this is solved, when I'm better, physically, for example, or somebody who's got a disease, or when I've reached that level of success, when, then I'll have the life I'm meant to be. My inner wisdom said to me, no, you are living the life you're meant to be now. And the mistake is not to take that as a gift from life. So I understand that for some people, their life is very traumatic, right?
Yes.
I mean, I'm talking about the average person who is not going through torture or extreme circumstances. But a majority of people in the Western world do have enough to eat, a house, a roof, and survival needs met,
Mhm.
right? So, but still, for most of us, it's so easy to think that I need to have this and this and this and that before, I'm happy. Well, my inner wisdom said to me, no, as soon as you think about that, as soon as you want to change something in your life, you imply that it's not the way it's meant to be. Therefore, you become a victim of your creation. Unconsciously, you move into the outer world again as the way you assess your life.
So would you say that, because I'm struggling a little bit with the idea of not willing to change, is that what you're saying? Or maybe I misunderstood. Or maybe you're saying beware about changing in the outer world?
Beware about the desire to change all the time, because what I was told is that you are perfect right here, right now. There is nothing to change. The only thing you can change is your perception.
Mm-hmm. What would you say about someone who would like to reach a higher level in their career, for example, or...
Well, why? The question to ask yourself is, what is it you want? Because whatever we want, whatever goal we have,
Mm-hmm.
there's always underneath a reason, which is, I want to be happier, I want to feel more successful, I want to have more money. What do you have? Why do you want to have more money? I want to have more security, and this is really what you're after.
Mm-hmm.
I was told, forget about the goals. Take the goals, not forget about them as get rid of them. Your goal is is a guiding principle. It's a direction. But at the end of the day, it's what you want to feel. The state of being you want to achieve once you have that goal. That's what we're after.
Okay.
And we can shortcut
Mm-hmm.
the whole thing by cultivating right here, right now, that state of being, and understand that our states of being are bigger than our circumstances.
Yes, that's for sure. So if I understand properly, and again, stop me if I'm not there where you want to be. First thing is clarify what is within, and when there is adequation of the emotions, then things become more clear, and then whatever dream or goal you might have, they will unfold
Yeah,
more freely, and the flow
yeah,
we
yeah.
often talk about, the flow then will be there.
Yes, because when we have that coherence,
Yes.
when we're at one, aligned between the thoughts and the emotions, because the problem with most of us, and I'm talking about myself as well, we have thoughts, desires, goals that we want to attain, but they meet with a block inside, an emotion which is the opposite. So we have these dichotomies happening within, internal wars. So that's what we need to look at and just align, okay, I want this goal, I want to achieve this, but what is it I want to feel behind? And if we go straight into the feeling, we can then develop that in us. But the problem is, and I've had to, and I still do have, is to let go of the ego,
Mm-hmm.
who keeps telling us, well, no, you can't be happy before you have that.
Mm-hmm.
You'll only be beautiful when you have lost 20 kilos. You'll only be successful when you've made your million.
Mm-hmm.
You're only going to be somebody if you have that job as a
Mhm.
status.
Which is the perfect way to avoid looking at who we are.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm not sure I would totally agree on the ego definition you give. For me, the ego is there, I think. And why not? I'm being a bit provocative. For me, it would depend how thick, how big, how much it develops, or how much it spreads all over, within our mind. because I also believe that the ego can be protection.
Oh yeah.
Depending again how big it is, but
Yeah.
I believe ego is necessary.
Of course it is. We need the ego to live in this world. And I when I talk about the ego, I really feel that the autonomic nervous system is a great way to talk about the relaxation response
Yes.
and the stress response. So we need the ego to be an individual to protect ourselves, to say this is not quite right, But the problem is it's the balance
Yes.
which is not quite right. Then we become stuck in these aspects of the ego, and the ego has a propensity for comparing ourselves, criticizing ourselves or criticizing others, and judging and condemning, and all of this.
Which I understand as being a protection boundary. A protection in not in the helpful way. I think some people, when we do
So a limitation,
criticize,
maybe.
exactly that we do on ourselves, because when you criticize or when you do not accept to change, or it's because there is a danger out there, and the danger is because the emotions or the facts, the events, whatever in your life have not been totally integrated, or made, we have not made peace with them. And this is the reason why we maybe there is rage, maybe there is fear, maybe there is aggressivity, or this is the reason why. And again linked with what you were saying before and what we do in therapy, when we have those bursts of anger, or those, what is called, I don't like negative feeling, but unsupportive feelings towards self and others, there is a reason for that, and it's because the peace is not within.
Yes, and the ego is good as well to question and even criticize, but that questioning element is very important, otherwise we wouldn't have any drive. So yeah, of course, when I talk about the ego, it's the negative, the negative polarity of it.
Yes, it's when it takes too much space, so it just blocks a part of our ways to be.
And science, neuroscience and stuff says that so 95% of who we are is driven by our subconscious mind. It leaves us with 5%, and 75% of our thoughts, and we have something like 60,000 thoughts a day, are negative. So in that respect, we are nearly hardwired.
Yes, we are.
To have a majority of,
especially women,
negative thoughts and all of that. So it takes conscious
and repetition,
decision, repetition, commitment to start transforming ourselves and developing what I call emotional maturity, whereby you can have that little conversation with yourself and say, well, you know what? No, I don't agree with that. And one of the example I say is when I read about a guy who decided that he had to do 5 new things a week, and if he failed, his thing was, I welcome epic failures, which is so amazing because most people will go, oh my god, I don't want to do this, and if I do public speaking and I can't speak in front of people, who cares? If people think about me this way, who cares? That some people go, well, you know what? Epic failure, welcome epic failure. So transforming these the emotions we have, looking at them, really dissecting them and going, you know what? I welcome failures. I'm afraid of failures. No, I welcome failures, and doing all these transformations. Anger can be justified, and if it's justified, maybe protection, I need to act on it. If not, what is it telling me about myself? And developing that emotional maturity is quite impressive, actually. It's quite fun, and it's so liberating. And it's what we both have called when things become beautiful as well as painful. And it kind of
we've had that
yes
conversation.
summarizes
Yeah.
life, because excuse me, nobody can have a life without challenges, and some people have extreme challenges, and that's very unfortunate. But the majority of people have, I mean the majority, common people, you know, have more or less problems. But I mean it's the capacity of, you know, to deal with these problems and to kind of allow ourselves to become more emotionally mature, to have the detachment to look at these emotions and to learn how we manage our emotions, how we can recognize them, and to learn how to do it with other people, and maybe, you know, well, that person is angry with me, but that's all he or she can do at the moment, so how can I stay in my presence unaffected, knowing that it's not necessarily me, it's actually the other person's problem.
Peaceful inner acceptance.
Oh my God, yes. Yes.
So now you have finished your book. What is the title of your book?
Let be, let love. Because at the end of the day, that's what I was shown throughout all these drama, my drama, or the dramas, you know, world dramas over the 5 years. I was told, you know, accept. I mean, not saying that accepting, some people say
not a fate, not as a fate.
yes, and some people might interpret that as you know, condoning, which is not at all. But accept what is, and make the best of life, and you know, you will encounter ups and downs, and whether you are highly developed spiritually or not. I mean, Krishnamurti, Maharashi, I can't remember the name of one of the.
Don't ask me.
Yes, of the really developed father of Indian mysticism. At the end of his life, had cancer, and it was his time to leave. And you know, even 10 or 15 years ago, I would have said, "Oh my God, you have cancer. Therefore, you have something in your mind, in your mental processes, which has created it." But sometimes it's just an experience, and you have to go through it. A friend of mine went through it, and she healed herself unconventionally, without drug, and she grew from it extremely, I mean, exponentially. And
so your journey has very much been spiritual.
Oh yeah.
And a rendezvous with yourself.
Myself and the consciousness who is what I believe part of who we are, the divine consciousness element, which is really the ultimate level of ourself.
And so we are going to end the interview now. Your book is being published this week, or it's being edited?
Yeah, I think it will come out in a few months now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So watch out for Nadège's book, and its title again is
Let Be, Let Love.
Let Be, Let Love. You can see Nadège, it's all about love, all about meeting, accepting, facing the reality in a higher spiritual way. So whether you agree or not is not the issue, it doesn't matter. That's Nadège's beliefs and reality that is just shining all over everywhere. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
And I will
Thank you
to you to listen. I will put in one of the comments the professional details, if you agree.
Well, thank you, yes.
So like that, if you are interested in contacting Nadège, or maybe to know whenever her book is out and ready to be spread and shared, then you can. Thank you very much. Have a brilliant time. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.